turn to nature, dance in the moonlight, swim in the lake, ritualistically hunt your friends for food. Just girly things. This video contains spoilers for Yellowjackets, both Season 1 and 2. Also, content warning for, just a whole lot of stuff that you would expect in a show that prominently features on-screen cannibalism. Yellowjackets is a 2021 survival horror series created by Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson. It tells the story of a New Jersey high school soccer team who become stranded for 19 months after their plane crashes in the remote Canadian wilderness on the way to a national soccer tournament. It's a gruesome tale of isolation and cannibalism with a big heaping dose of mystery. The story is also peppered with supernatural elements that are treated with just enough ambiguity to leave it up to us to decide the extent to which they're real or just imagined. The series interweaves the experiences of the teen girls stranded in the wilderness with the lives of a handful of the adult survivors 25-ish years later, showing the ripple effects of the trauma that they went through. It's gut-wrenching and tragic, but also romantic and darkly comedic at times.
I can't believe you thought I was going to book club this whole time.
What? There's no book club?
The parallel storylines offer a lot of opportunities for foreshadowing and setup and payoff, and it's beautifully executed. Yellowjackets is the kind of show that rewards attentive viewers, and sends fans running to subreddits and Facebook groups to speculate and discuss theories and overanalyze every little detail for clues every time a new episode drops. After the controversial and heartbreaking finale to Season 2 came out last year, a lot of people were really upset and felt like the shocking conclusion came out of nowhere. I understand the outrage, because, like a lot of other fans, Natalie is one of my favorite characters. But, upon rewatching the show from Season 1, I think her fate was planned, at least in outline, from the very first episode. So, let's talk about it, because fixation loves company, and I have been stewing on this for months now. We'll start with a brief overview of the show, but not a full recap because there's just so much that happens, so if you're confused, go back and watch the show. In both the 1996 timeline and the 2021 timeline, we mainly follow 4 members of the Yellowjackets soccer team: Shauna, Thaisa, Misty, and, of course, Natalie. In the present day, Shauna, played by Melanie Lynskey, is an unhappy housewife with a dark side and a gullible but devoted husband.
I can't imagine how exhausting it must have been, always comparing yourself to someone so beautiful and smart.
Shauna got into Brown.
And a teenage daughter, Callie, who acts like a teenager.
Seriously, if this feels meaningful to you, I really think you need to take a good hard look at your life.
Thaisa, played by Tawny Cypress, is a politician who has recurring episodes of sleepwalking and disassociation that are causing a bit of strain with her family. Misty, played by the incomparable Christina Ricci, is a psychotic nurse and citizen detective.
Don't fuck with me.
And Natalie, played by Juliette Lewis, is a bit of a human disaster. She relies on unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with the trauma from the wilderness and tends to keep people at arm's length.
And I thought this was...
Real?
Yes, I thought it was fucking real. What the fuck is wrong with you?
In the pilot, the women are contrasted primarily with their younger selves before the plane crash. Both timelines are also intercut with scenes that show us just how far things in the wilderness will go, starting with a cold open of a terrified girl being pursued through the woods until she falls into a pit trap and a pair of pink Converse sneakers appear at the edge as one of the players, wearing a makeshift mask, peers down into the hole. Teen Natalie, as portrayed by Sophie Thatcher, is a bit of a Maeve Wiley type.
Here's the thing, you're supposed to circle all the A's, not just a singular one.
You're so dumb sometimes, Amy.
Olivia, do you want this pen in your eye?
She's fiercely intelligent and has a tough exterior due to a difficult home life that made her grow up too fast. Despite the walls she puts up, she's uniquely kind and compassionate. She looks out for people that others disregard, and she's often the voice of reason.
Did you black out at States? She totally choked.
She's a freshman tie.
She starts self-medicating young.
For the record, you smell like a wino. Get your shit together.
Partially due to the death of her abusive father via a firearm accident which she witnessed.
The fuck did you say?
We spend most of the pilot with the teens in New Jersey the day before they leave, interspersed with our introduction to the survivors as adults, and scenes of the team butchering Pit Girl, whose identity is another mystery the fandom has been buzzing about since the show debuted. Sophie Nélisse, as young Shauna, beautifully portrays the complicated and notably homoerotic dynamic with her friend and teammate Jackie, played by Ella Purnell, who she loves but also has a lot of jealousy towards. And this is foundational to their relationship in the wilderness, but that's a topic for another video. We see that Ty, played by Jasmine Savoy Brown, has a ruthless streak, even before the wilderness.
This is the game. Step it up.
Although I don't think she meant for this to happen. We also meet Misty, played by Samantha Hanratty as a teenager. She is the equipment manager for the Yellowjackets team, rather than one of the players. And this is symbolic of her general struggle to fit in. She's always on the fringes, on the outside, looking in. We meet the rest of the team, whose fates are initially unknown as they get ready for a pep rally. There are a few standouts, including Lottie, a bit of an it girl played by Courtney Eaton, Jane Widdop as the very Christian Laura Lee.
Excuse me, Coach Scott. Shouldn't we say a prayer first?
It's just a scrimmage, Laura Lee.
And my personal favorite, Van, a movie buff played by Liv Hewson, who you may recognize from their amazing performance in Santa Clarita Diet. The pep rally is fun. Misty gets really into it from the sidelines. But afterwards, Ty proposes a plan to freeze out Allie, a weaker player, during practice to make her play harder after a poor performance at the state championships. Natalie refuses to go along with it.
Yeah, what's your plan then? I don't know. Play like a fucking team and win?
Shauna's reluctant, but agrees not to tell Jackie.
Jackie's not gonna like it. Then we probably shouldn't tell her.
It goes horribly awry. Although Allie getting maimed spares her from being on the plane, so it's kind of a blessing in disguise. There are a few scenes in particular I want to focus on in the pilot, as they pertain to foreshadowing Natalie's ultimate fate in the adult timeline, as well as the huge revelation about her time in the wilderness at the end of Season 2. One of the most jaw-dropping moments in the Season 2 finale is when Natalie is crowned the Antler Queen by Lottie after she survives being hunted by allowing someone else to die in her place.
It's already chosen who should lead us. Natalie.
The Antler Queen, as the mysterious figure in the pilot has been called by fans, is the subject of a lot of speculation and theories. She appears in 3 scenes in the pilot in which she is shown to be the leader of the ritual hunt. Her face is obscured with a veil draped over an antler headdress, and her clothing is decorated with locks of human hair, and the others visibly look to her for approval throughout the ritual. The prevailing theory until Natalie's coronation was that Lottie is the Antler Queen, which does make sense. Lottie is the one we see communicate the most with the wilderness.
Something's coming. We won't be hungry much longer.
And she's often at the heart of several major supernatural events. Like the seance.
Was that French? Jackie, wasn't she in your class? Yeah, but she sucks at French.
Or when she dons antlers and leads the team in hunting Travis, the only boy their age who's stranded with them, during the Doom Coming party where they were all accidentally dosed with shrooms.
I think she poisoned all of us. Well, at least I don't think you can die from shrooms.
She's the one a bear seemingly just wanders up to as a sacrifice in the Season 1 finale, which gets them through the start of winter. And yet, there are actually 3 separate moments in the pilot where it's clearly foreshadowed all along that the Antler Queen is Natalie rather than Lottie. Let's start with the bonfire scene. Despite the unfortunate incident with the mangling of Allie's leg, most of the team attends a party in the woods. Nat and her buddies take LSD.
Got 6 words for you, my friend. Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
A wild choice the night before a national-level sporting event. As the drugs take effect, she has a vision of Misty standing behind the bonfire as Down by the Water by PJ Harvey plays. Misty vanishes, and there's a close-up of Natalie centered in the frame in front of the flickering firelight, before we cut to the team, masked and dressed in furs, sitting around a fire in the wilderness with the Antler Queen at the center. With how deliberate everything in this show is, it isn't an accident that the only 3 shots of the Antler Queen in the pilot are all immediately preceded with shots of Natalie. We know Yellowjackets does match cuts like these to correlate characters, because we see them do it in the pilot with Misty, cutting from the masked girl with the tray of meat to Misty as an adult in the hospital carrying a tray, before later revealing young Misty's face at the end of the episode. And it's worth noting, the scene with the tray is the second time that a shot of the Antler Queen is preceded with a center frame shot of Natalie. Then, in the Antler Queen's final scene in the episode, we're shown a shot of Natalie and Misty together, before cutting to the masked figure we know is Misty, and the Antler Queen walking behind her as she turns to leave the clearing. The writers were telling us all along that Natalie was destined to become the Antler Queen and lose herself to the wilderness. There's an element of Greek myth and tragedy to Yellowjackets. It's implied most explicitly in the Bacchanalian doom-coming party at the end of the first season, and in the gilded Grecian feast overlaying a scene of the girls savagely tearing into poor dead Jackie in season 2, when they accidentally barbecue her remains while unsuccessfully trying to cremate them after she freezes to death at the end of season 1. I told you, there's a lot that happens in this show. This symbolism is relevant when we consider the possibility that Natalie and the Antler Queen represent Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Joseph Campbell, a prominent scholar of Greek myth, describes the duality of Artemis in this quote. Originally, Artemis herself was a deer, and she is the goddess who kills deer. The two are dual aspects of the same being. Life is killing life all the time, and so the goddess kills herself in the sacrifice of her own animal. Natalie is the most adept hunter, with her most notable kills being deer. Throughout both seasons in the teen storyline, Natalie is the one most resistant to the wilderness and Lottie's cult. She denies the supernatural and refuses to accept Lottie's blessings on her hunts.
All because of you, you know. Lottie tries to bless you for the hunt, but half the time you're MIA. Or when you do show up, it's like you're practically holding your nose.
Lottie is also credited with feeding the team with the bear and a flock of birds that dive-bomb the cabin. But these are gifts from the wilderness, rather than the result of Lottie's hunting prowess. Although the bear is also a symbol associated with Artemis, which could mean that Natalie and Lottie represent the dual aspects of Artemis. But it's also relevant that the bear doesn't appear until after Natalie stops the girls from killing Travis during the Doomcoming hunt.
Stop! No!
Birds are also associated with Artemis, but the dive-bombing birds appear immediately after Natalie challenges Lottie about including the wilderness symbol on a baby blanket for Shauna, who was pregnant with Jackie's boyfriend Jeff's baby. So much happens in this show.
Why would you put that creepy symbol on a baby blanket?
Both instances of animals appearing to feed the group occur immediately after Natalie challenges Lottie. Lottie and Natalie are ultimately pitted against each other in a contest to see who can bring game back first.
It all goes to show the only food we've had in months is thanks to Lottie.
Then we should have a contest.
Although both fail. Natalie finds a moose that got trapped in the ice, but the team's attempt to pull it to shore sends it to the bottom of the lake, out of their reach. She takes it pretty hard.
It's gone. It's gone.
Thaisa and Van end up finding Travis's little brother Javi, who has been missing since Doomcoming, and bring him back instead. Another bit of grim foreshadowing. Shauna's baby is stillborn, and Lottie tells her to take the rage out on her.
Shauna, I know there's a lot of pain right now, but let it out.
And Shauna almost beats her to death. To save Lottie, who tells the girls to eat her if she doesn't make it.
She said if she dies, she wants us to make use of her.
The girls agree to draw lots and kill the loser for food, because Lottie needs to eat to recover.
The wilderness won't let her die.
But if she's starving, there's no way she's gonna live.
And Natalie draws the losing card. Travis gives her a chance to escape, and she makes a run for it with the girls in hot pursuit. Javi catches up to her and attempts to lead her to his hiding place.
There's a place the others don't know about it. I can take you there. You can trust me.
But as they cross the lake, the ice breaks under him and he falls in. As Nat tries to pull him out, the others catch up, and when faced with the choice to save Javi and let them kill her, or let Javi drown and eat him instead,
if you save him, the others will get you!
Natalie chooses the latter, and he quickly succumbs to hypothermia. This parallels Artemis, as Natalie is both the hunted and the hunter. Javi is obviously considerably younger than everyone else who is stranded in the wilderness, and so there's sort of an element of the sacrifice of an innocent to his death, and I think that makes it even more impactful for Natalie and the others. Coach Ben, the only surviving adult, decides to abandon the girls after seeing Javi's butchered remains, because he realizes he has lost all control of the situation. Fair. He asks Natalie to come with him.
I figured out where Javi was hiding. I think that you and I together could probably survive the winter.
He's gay, there's nothing untoward in that offer. But Natalie confesses that she's the one who let Javi die.
You're not like the rest of these girls.
Actually, I'm worse. I let him die in my place.
As the irrevocable magnitude of that sinks in for both of them. After everyone, including Travis, eats some of the meat, a revitalized Lottie crowns Natalie as the one chosen by the wilderness.
It's already chosen who should lead us. Natalie.
And she embraces it, accepting fealty from the girls and Travis. Coach Ben watches through the window in horror, and later sets the cabin ablaze. The girls flee the fire with what they can grab and watch the cabin burn, showing us how things will escalate to the ritual hunts we saw in the pilot as the girls submit to the wilderness. But the foreshadowing in the pilot wasn't just for the teen storyline. It was also for Natalie's fate in 2021. Now I want to pivot a bit and talk about how the costuming in Yellowjackets foreshadowed Natalie reconnecting with Lottie and succumbing to the cult. When we're first introduced to Natalie as an adult, we see her meditating by the sea wearing a purple cardigan. She's in rehab, paid for by Thaisa, and someone dressed in monochrome scrubs calls her in for group therapy, where she talks about her need to self-medicate coming from the loss of her purpose after being rescued.
But the real reason is much simpler. After they rescued us, I lost my purpose.
Looking back, we know that the purpose Natalie is referring to is probably her role as the Antler Queen, the huntress and provider for the team. Throughout the first season, there are other allusions to Natalie being central to the girls' survival in the wilderness, like Thaisa explaining why she keeps paying for rehab.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So I do what I can, not just for her, for me.
After getting out of treatment, Natalie, dressed in mostly black, returns to New Jersey, where she tracks down Misty.
Hello, Misty. You crazy fucking bitch.
After receiving a mysterious postcard with a symbol from the wilderness on it.
I take it you know why I'm here. The postcard.
But Misty received one too. Misty helps her find Travis's address, but they arrive to find him recently deceased. Natalie starts sleeping with Kevin Tan, former cool goth, current cop, talk about a glow down, and uses their connection to get information about what happened to Travis, including a tip that someone emptied out his bank account around the time of his death. Our four main Yellowjackets assemble as they realize they're being blackmailed and try to figure out who's behind it. Shauna thinks it's the man she's having an affair with and kind of accidentally murders him, or maybe manslaughters. She didn't plan it. But it turns out it was actually her husband Jeff trying to save his failing furniture store after he secretly read Shauna's wilderness journals and realized there was blackmail material in there for some of her friends.
I thought Thaisa, maybe Natalie had the cash. I mean, I was gonna lose the store, Shauna.
At the end of the first season, after coming to a dead end with finding out what happened to Travis, Natalie has a shotgun in her mouth ready to end it all when a bunch of people dressed in purple and wearing the wilderness symbol break into her motel room and snatch her. And someone leaves Nat a desperate voicemail.
I dug into Travis's bank account and found out who emptied it. I think someone's following me. Who the fuck is Lottie Matthews?
Throughout season 1, adult Natalie isn't seen wearing purple again after the initial introductory scene. Although we do see teen Natalie wear a purple t-shirt on the day of the plane crash. But most of the time she wears darker clothing, lots of black with accents of white and gray, keeping with the more alternative style we saw her wear as a teen. At the start of season 2, Natalie is being held by Lottie and her
intentional community.
According to Amy Paris, one of the costume designers for the show, the purple outfits are actually inspired by the Rajneeshpuram, another well-known cult that dressed in monochrome. Lottie doesn't always wear the purple, though, standing out in complementary orange when we first see her as an adult, played by Simone Kessel. At first, Natalie is skeptical of Lottie and her beliefs, refusing to adopt the purple.
Last I heard, you were finger painting in the loony bin, and now you're running a cult. Clearly, you've recovered, then.
But she sticks around to sniff around the cult and see if Lottie killed Travis.
I didn't kill him, Nat. I was trying to save him.
As the season progresses, and Natalie begins to embrace Lottie's cult while getting to know one of its members, Lisa, we see her start to incorporate more and more purple into her wardrobe. The visual transformation mirrors how the wilderness slowly takes over Natalie and overwhelms her humanity when she allows Javi to die in her place. I think Lottie's cult is also designed to parallel the rehab facility where we first see Natalie and she resolves to rediscover her purpose, which she does by returning to Lottie.
Was I being treated when your purple fucks came and jumped me?
As Lottie tells us, the shade of purple the cult wears is...
Heliotrope is not purple.
Blood orange, she's so pretentious. Shut up, it's red.
It's also the shade we first see Natalie in as an adult, and arguably the shade on the t-shirt she's wearing when the plane goes down. The flower heliotrope, which Lottie says the cult uses for dye.
We make the dye ourselves, from the flowers used to treat wounds. Wow, deep.
Symbolizes eternal love and devotion in the language of flowers. This represents Lottie's devotion to the wilderness, as well as Nat succumbing and devoting herself to it as well. Heliotrope is also used medicinally to treat wounds, and it's through reconnecting with Lottie that Natalie comes to terms with the past, and also how everything comes full circle during the hunt. Going back to the scene in the pilot where Misty appears to Natalie during her trip, I think this moment was intended to hint at Misty's involvement in Natalie's death, and her involvement in Natalie becoming the Antler Queen. The use of Down by the Water to connect the two scenes also feels important. Yellowjackets often uses music to communicate with the audience. For example, in this scene where they use this line from Dreams by the Cranberries to show us just how Natalie feels about Travis. Nothing in this show is an accident. Down by the Water is a song about a woman drowning her child and then regretting it. And while it's not a one-to-one correlation, this may be a piece of foreshadowing for Javi's death by drowning. Another piece that may foreshadow that is during the pilot in the montage where the girls are getting ready to board the plane, Misty sits by her pool and watches a rat drown. Misty and the other Yellowjackets track down Natalie and Lottie's compound with the intention of rescuing her, including Van, played by Lauren Ambrose, who Thaisa seeks out after the sleepwalking gets worse. Instead, they end up hanging out with Lottie and Nat and try some of the experiences that the cult offers under the pretext of helping them heal. After spending more time with Natalie, Lottie begins to have visions again for the first time since the wilderness, including an imagined therapist who turns into the Antler Queen.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
You tell me, does a hunt that has no violence feed anyone?
She believes they brought the wilderness back with them and they need to give it a hunt to appease it.
It won't stop until it gets what it wants.
If we really want to give it what it's asking for, we should give it a hunt.
The other Yellowjackets play along, buying time until a crisis team can arrive. But Thaisa was convinced by Van, who always believed in Lottie's cult, to call them off.
We reached out earlier requesting a crisis team. Well, we've calmed her down, and we're going to bring her to Whitlock General ourselves.
They do the draw, and this time Shauna draws the fateful card. And the women begin pursuing her, until her daughter Callie stops them by shooting Lottie in the arm.
Get away from her! Get away from my mom.
She and Shauna's husband Jeff had followed her to the compound. Lisa finds the group and points a gun at Nat, horrified by what she's overheard.
What is she talking about? You killed people? Tell me!
Misty, in an attempt to save Natalie, lunges at Lisa with a syringe full of opioids, and Natalie, refusing to let someone die for her again, makes the split-second decision to get between Misty and Lisa. We get a brief flashback to the apparition of Misty at the bonfire as Natalie goes down while the others look on in horror. Misty killing Natalie had a sense of inevitability to it. Throughout the adult timeline, Misty is Natalie's constant companion, often manipulating situations to get closer to her. In the wilderness, when Javi is in the water drowning, It's Misty who tells Nat to stop trying to save him. A mirror to her attempt to kill Lisa to save Nat in 2021, both of which put Natalie in the position of deciding whether to let someone else die for her. It's also interesting that Nat's death is the second time Misty has accidentally killed a best friend. In the wilderness in season 2, she intimidated her friend Kristen right off a cliff after foolishly revealing she had stranded them in the wilderness by tampering with the plane's emergency beacon and then panicking when Kristen got justifiably upset.
The night after the plane crash, when everybody was asking me for my help and treating me like I was actually useful, I found the plane's emergency transmitter. I destroyed it.
It's not a lot of times, but it is weird that it's happened twice. As Natalie dies, she finds herself on an airplane, where Javi tells her there's nothing to be afraid of.
There's nothing to be afraid of, you know?
I'm not supposed to be here.
And the younger version of herself appears and tells her,
No, that's not true. This is exactly where we belong. We've been here for years.
She starts to cry, and teen Lottie comforts her.
It's not evil, just hungry. Like us.
And she tells Nat to let it in.
Just let it in.
This moment in the plane feels like a callback to one in the 4th episode of season 1, where Natalie has a vision of her dad as the plane is going down, where he ominously says,
"We're almost there. It's been waiting for us."
Which adds credibility to Lottie's insistence that Natalie is the favorite of the wilderness, and the one it would choose.
It was in you, even when you denied it, especially then. You were always its favorite.
But when Natalie jumped in front of Lisa, she refused to let the wilderness choose for her a second time. I totally understand why this ending upset a lot of people, especially in the wake of rumors flying around that Juliette Lewis wanted to leave the show. But I have to commend the writers on doing an incredible job setting up this outcome for Natalie from the very start and leaving us breadcrumbs along the way. It's a heartbreaking send-off to an amazing character with a lot of dimension, and it will definitely change the dynamic in interesting ways going forward, both in the teen timeline, knowing what we now know, and in the effects it will have on the surviving characters in the aftermath. In a world where so much is phoned in and cookie cutter, I appreciate a show where the writers clearly care a lot about the story, and I can't wait for season 3. But I'll have to because it isn't coming till 2025. But that's just my opinion. What did you think about Natalie's fate in Yellowjackets? Did you see it coming? What are some of your theories and predictions for season 3? Let me know in the comments down below. There's obviously a lot to talk about with this show, so I'll certainly be coming back to the wilderness again soon. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos. See you next time. Wiedersehen.